Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel today for the return of the FIA series on GT Sports. So last Saturday saw the return of both nations and manufacturer. This is the manufacturer race, driving at Dragon Trail in the Group 3 cars. Now this race was not really the best suited track for our car. It was okay over one lap. The Ford had very good qualifying pace, although I just didn't hook up my second run at all. We kept getting a good banker in, but then kept messing it up on the final run, trying to push the chicane through. As you're going to see, I think Garassa did a very nice time in the Ford GT there. You're going to see it in P4, so a great lap there, 36.4. However, the problem with the Ford GT was its fuel consumption. Probably the worst car on the grid, I think. I didn't see a car that could that was struggling as much with the fuel as the Ford GT. So this race was really it was just about trying to have some fun. We tried to do a one-stopper a couple of times, fighting our way back through the field. It just became a bit messy. So this was the final race of the day. I decided, starting from P10 there, you see, that was our bank lap. That wasn't our low fuel run, which was a bit frustrating because I knew I could have got a 36.7. I don't think I could have got a 36.4. I just wasn't up to speed enough to get to that type of level that Garassa did. So I think if I would have hooked the lap of a 36.7 or 36.8 would have been possible, but we're starting from P10 with that time. And I expect to go backwards because in this race we're going to try the no stopper and just see what we can do, because if we try a one stopper starting from P10 we end up about P15, 16. So the only thing we could try and do with this race was just go for the no stopper, see what we could do, and just try and figure something out through the race, try and sit in people's slipstream. But what you're going to witness in this race is the amount of fuel saving that I'm doing compared to how much fuel I'm saving it's just not enough. And I'm fairly good with fuel in general. You know, in fuel saving races in the past, I've had some of my biggest results, very strong results in fuel saving races. And even on Daily Race C that's on this week at Sardinia, the B layout, in the Porsche, I did a very, very fast time because it's just very much a case of what car you're driving. So what you're going to see straight away from the start, we're going to put the fuel mixture on. And we're going to go to mixture 6 just for the opening little bit of driving here now while you're under the rolling start. But we're going to first of all just try and stay in slipstreams as much as possible. So we're going to go in one mixture here. But look at the short shift. I'm already short shifting quite drastically. I need to get in that slipstream though to try and help me out down the straight. So we're in that now. We're going to short shift into 6th gear. And you can see the fuel isn't really going up, and we're into fuel mixture 3 already, trying to save as much fuel as we go into turn 1. A lot of cars side by side, so we're just going to take this fairly cautious. Carl Williams in front of the Mercedes. Mercedes very, very, very strong on fuel now since whether it's been a BOP change or whether it's been something they've altered within the update or server maintenance, I don't know, but certain cars now are extremely strong on fuel compared to other cars that are very weak. Like Ford GT is just a no-go when it comes to a no-stop strategy. However, the Porsche at this week's Daily Race C is absolutely destroying it with the fuel consumption. It's a massive surprise, to be honest, because that car should not, well, it never used to be that strong on fuel, but suddenly now it's very strong, along with the Mercedes. Mercedes was never the best on fuel, but suddenly now it's fairly competitive. So it's really interesting, the change in the fuel consumptions on cars. It's definitely changed since I drove Porsche and Mercedes, because them cars, although they could save fuel with short shifting, they were never the strongest in terms of maintaining lap time. However, that seems to have changed recently, as you can see again. At the moment, I'm just trying to use Carl Williams Mercedes, save as much fuel. We're in mixture 2, 3, saving as much as possible. But you see, one of the issues with being in slipstream through the chicane of death was it kind of made this car a little bit unstable to drive. However, we're going to plug away into mixture 4, just trying to save every ounce of fuel. You can see, even with this fuel saving that we've been doing for this lap, we're still only on 7.3, 7.5 laps of remaining. We need 8 laps as we go over the line. So even with that extreme saving we did on that lap, we're going to struggle. But I need to stay in the slipstreams to get any sort of result at this track. So we're going to try and stay in as much as possible to within, you know, that 7/10 range to pick up a draft from the car in front. I think it's about 7, just over 7/10 you pick up a draft. Anything over 8, you tend not to get any sort of draft at all on GT Sport. But one thing we did know, we knew that this was going to be the situation during the race, because we did a couple of practice races and the Ford GT just struggled. If I think if I would have started towards the front 4 places on the grid, we could have made a one-stopper kind of work and maybe got you know, a P8 or a P7, but even then, because of the fuel consumption, you end up losing a lot of time compared to other cars. And we've seen it throughout every single split race in this. Garasta was so fast in qualifying. He was qualifying in the top 4 or 5 every race, but every single race that he was in, he was losing 4 to 5 positions just purely because the car just couldn't do. He couldn't do a no. He tried the no stopper a couple of times, but just kept losing too much time. As you can see now, we've now got the Corvette behind, which is very strong on fuel, but I don't really want to let him through at this point because that means I'd have to drop back too much. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm able to let him pass, we're just going to pretty much let him cruise past us as quickly as possible. We now go through the chicane of death, and Carl Williams in front actually clips the barrier there, which gives me a little bit of hint of a slipstream again. You can see it on the delta on the left hand side. We're back into that draft range, so we're into mixture 6 again. As soon as we're picking up the slipstream, we're into mixture 6, down to mixture 3 for this corner, just trying to hug the inside, early upshifting into 3rd gear, early upshifting into 4th gear, and now we're going to try and use a bit of one mixture for a fraction of a second. But as soon as I put it in one mixture, this car just drains the fuel. Obviously this is, I personally think this must be one of the weakest cars on fuel. Even the Subaru in this race was managing to save a lot more fuel than this Ford GT. It was much faster over the race pace, so a big struggle for me for this round. But like I say, we did this for just more for the fun of racing, as we're just going to let this Corvette go now. A bit of racecraft. There's no point me holding him up. I just put it into mixture 6, let him take that inside, and now I'm going to try and use his slipstream for a bit because I've lost the slipstream to that Mercedes. That Mercedes is gone. I cannot keep up with that Mercedes in terms of its fuel saving ability. So now we're going to try and hang into the Corvette for as long as possible. Even then, that is going to be a big task because we know how strong the Corvette is on fuel and race pace with the short shift, and that is the key thing. These cars are very good at the Corvette, for example. They short shift very well because to get the optimum speed out of them cars, you short shift them anyway. For example, the Corvette, you shift on 50% on the bar, and that creates its best straight line speed. So when you short shift it like right at the start of the bar, it doesn't actually lose that much acceleration because the low down torque is so strong on the car. But this Ford GT has pretty terrible low down torque, and even then when you short shift it just chews the fuel. It's astonishing how much fuel it used. I've not driven a car in Group 3 as bad on fuel as this, but we're going to plug on to the very end as we now, again, we're not going to fight these positions too much. I did expect him to go for a move on the inside there, the GTR behind me. I knew that car was very good on fuel. We had done a practice race with it, and it did a very fast finishing time, so I knew that car was not worth fighting. So again, we're going to let that car go. We're going to put the mixture up to 2, and then we're going to tuck into that slipstream and try and save a bit more fuel. So you'll see again, tucking in the slipstream and just trying to keep an eye on where the braking zone is though. But in mixture 6 for a little brief second, every opportunity I had to try and save some fuel I was trying to, but without losing too much of the slipstream at the same time. As you see, going through the corner, another area that was a concern for the Ford GT was the rear tyres. Although I think we did a reasonable job when we were fuel saving like this, it didn't tend to really worry the tyres too much because you just weren't putting any speed or power through the rear tyres anyway. So the tyres, although were going to be an issue towards the end, they weren't as bad as if it was a flat out race with no stop. As we now into P12, and you can really see how this race is very much going backwards for me. In general, when we qualify, say P10, we normally work our way forwards in the race, just driving fairly consistent. And normally, I'd say we gain 3 to 4 positions in a race. But in this race, I knew that we were going to go backwards. So we're just going to hold on and let cars pass and not fight them, because, like I say, if we fight these cars, we're going to probably end up losing ourselves time and them time. So in this race, it's just going to be about using some common sense and just hope cars make mistakes and maybe we can pick up some sort of result. But as this is going through the race, at this point I could see it's looking like we're going to be finishing maybe in the top 15 would be the best I could really hope for at this point in the race as we come to the final corner. Now, some cars might decide to go in the pit on lap 4, some cars would possibly go in the pit on lap 5 if they're going for the one-stop strategy. For myself, it really wasn't possible because when you start this far back, we did try and get through the traffic, but it was so hard going through the traffic. We did start right at the back on one race, managed to get ourselves up to like P3 or 4 by the pit stop phase, but then that wasn't enough because then the pit stop took over 20 seconds and you just end up so far back. So again, not really much you can do as we go through turn 1 and 2, the chicane, and now we got a fast approaching car behind us. And again, we're just going to now go into fuel safe mode because we've lost the slipstream from that Nissan GTR. And you can see on the fuel, we've only got 4.4 laps of fuel, and we've definitely got more than 4.5 laps to go in this race. So we're going to have to go stay in fuel mixture free for a bit. And this is the thing, a lot of cars were able to run this race completely from start to finish by just short shifting one mixture. They didn't even have to do any real mixture changes through the race. I think the Corvette could get away with it. The Porsche, I'm pretty sure, could 100% get away with it now after driving it at race C. I was quite surprised to not see anyone in the Porsche competing at this round. It was so strange because the Porsche is fairly strong at this track anyway, and the fuel consumption is really good. As we see now, the WRX and Brezza just breezing past because it can just use more fuel. So again, that car stronger than the Ford GT. It was a real struggle for myself at this round, but again, we're just going to let him pass because there's no point fighting that position. We might as well just hang on to some slipstream, and I know that car's not the fastest down the straight, so maybe we can hold in for a little bit. As you see, again, catching him up at the end of the acceleration zone in mixture 2, and again going through the final corner into third gear and just staying in mixture 2 there. We're not going to go into mixture 1 at the moment, into fourth gear and just trying to hang in the slipstream. But now you're going to see the Ferrari go straight past us because again, the Ferrari seems quite strong now on the new change of physics, and also with the new BOP, it seems like a really drivable car. And again, that Ferrari is just going to go straight past the Subaru. Fairly strong on fuel, the Ferrari, I think, compared to some other cars. So again, that might be worth trying the Ferrari for race C out this week. I'm not sure how it'll be. Maybe I'll try that when this race is over. Maybe we'll jump on Thursday and have another go at some daily races and see what we could do with some other cars. As we've got the one stoppers coming through. Manuel Rodri did want to pass earlier on, but I couldn't really give up that position where he wanted to pass, so I just let him through on the inside there, tuck back into the slipstream. And now this is really awkward because I don't want to ruin the one stopper's pace because these are fighting for the lead, and I'm on a different strategy, but I have to maintain my line through here now. But I'm just going to stay to the right hand side now, stay in mixture 3. I'm not going to worry about trying to fight him off. We're just going to tuck him back behind RC Miura and try not to get in the way of that fight. As you can see, we've kind of kept that fairly even. They've not really lost too much time. There's a car in between them now though, going through the chicane of death, although Manuel Rodri up ahead has also got a car in front of him, so it's not going to affect the race too much. You can see that RC Miura clearly wants to get past, but not really much you can do during these corners. You can't just get out of the way of a car during that type of corner when you're in a race. But as soon as you've got the chance to, you can see there, they're going to let RC Miura through on the inside, and Manuel Rodri takes the other car. And now there's another car in between them again. But now RC Miura looking ahead, is going to get the slipstream and going to be able to pass down the main straight. Like I say, there's no point fighting them cars because some people will try and fight them and they're just going to lose time for not only yourself but the drivers that you're not really racing, because they've got fresh tyres, full fuel, and they can push 100%, as you can see now into mixture 6, as needing to do some quite drastic fuel saving in this race because we still haven't saved enough fuel to get to the end. And I generally don't think I've ever driven, like I say, as a Group 3 car, I've never had to drive with as much fuel saving in one race as now. This Supra's just going to throw it up the inside there. I didn't think he was going to go for that, but I just saw him very late and just left the space open there, and very aggressive, but it was very risky because I still had to take the corner. And it reminded me kind of how you get in multi-class racing when some cars will just think that you need to get out of the way. Sometimes you need to be very cautious because these drivers are still racing. It very much was like a two-tier races because you have the cars that were good at the track and good on fuel, hence the Supra, very OP round there. It was pretty much why you were seeing so many drivers re-enter races when they'd got a P2. So I think Manuel Rodri got a P2 or a P3. Wasn't happy with that because he knew he was in the overpowered car and he can just go again in this race and try and get the win. So it's a situation I hope gets sorted in these FIA races in the future. But you can see now we're getting attacked from another, I think that's another Supra again. So the main cars in this race, clearly the Supra, these are the cars that are going to be fighting for the top 4. I think the top 3 or 4 positions at the end of this race were all the Toyota Supra, and then it was basically the next, Group 3.5, as you could say, in this race, fighting for the next positions. And then you can see now we're down to P14 and it's very much going downhill. We've got a bit of a gap, you can see on the track map though, we've got a bit of a gap now to P15 and 16, so we might just be able to hold on to a top 15, which at the end of the day wouldn't be terrible. It would be a drop of 5 places or so, but it's what I expected from this race. And to be fair, I think this was a situation that's been brought about by the settings in this for this race. I think the 9 laps was too short. Personally, I think they should have done 11 laps. As we see an issue up ahead, it looks like On Face has wiped out Sergio there. We call him Sergio because he's been in the stream a few times, that's his name. And that's put me up 2 positions, so we've managed to get back up to P12. So at the moment, we've only lost 2 positions. So not the end of the world at the moment. In a reasonable position considering, you know, this is a top split race. We're not in the best car. But yeah, like I said, in regards to the settings in these lobbies, this race would have been better as 11 laps to get rid of the opportunity. I think it would have, if you wanted to do a no-stopper, these no-stopper cars would have had to do extreme fuel saving, and I don't think it would have been the fastest way. And everyone would have probably have one-stopped it. Now, I would have rather, I think it would have made it a bit more fair if, even though my car would have been terrible on fuel, at least we could have all been driving aggressive, and at the pit stop you might lose 3 or 4 seconds, but then you can refuel up and go aggressive and try and make up that time. For this race, it was a very, very, I don't want to say boring race, but it was just a real, I just wanted to get it over with basically. You can see like into mixture 3 now, we're on lap 8 and we've got 2 laps to go, 1 lap to go after this, sorry. And the fuel just about getting back to where it should be. You can see 1 lap left, and that was because we were using basically mixture 3 and 4 through the whole lap of the race. And now into mixture 4, you can see I've only got 10% left of fuel, and this car will only do 1 lap on about 10% if you do a lot of drastic fuel saving. So I knew this lap I had to do quite a bit, but you can see up ahead we've got a car with a penalty, which could be fairly interesting. I can't tell, it might be the Subaru that was in front of us that overtook us very early on, as we now come through to this right hand corner and accelerate up the hill. And you see, yeah, he's got the penalty there. He's going to take it here, but we're not actually going to get into slipstream. It doesn't look like we're going to actually pick up we might just about get in the slipstream, have we? Yeah, so that is the Subaru that's picked up. I think it must have been a 1 or 2 second penalty there. But now he looks like he's able to push fairly aggressive up this hill. As I'm in 1 mixture, I thought I'm going to try and get in that slipstream. You never know, if we can get ourselves into P11, we would have only lost 1 position in this race, you can see. So getting into slipstream, into this tight right hand corner, but having to go into mixture 3 because of fuel is looking quite worrying at this stage. I did notice and thought there's not really much point in me trying to overtake him here, because if I do that, if I go into 1 mixture, I felt like we would probably end without any fuel and we'd probably lose more position. So pretty much settled for where I am now. Left it in mixture 3 all the way down this straight on through the tunnel, and now we've just got to do the final corner to come home with a P12, which, to be fair, starting from P10 in the Ford GT, we've only lost 2 places. In general, most Ford GTs were losing minimum 2 places in their races anyway. So let's have a little look where Garassa finished that race as well, as we go over the line and see the final positions and just see what happens to other guys. You can see there Garassa P7 started P4, so Garassa lost 3 places in the Ford GT as well. I think he went for the no-stop strategy possibly. It looks like Tidgley managed to get past him from a couple of places back there, and Kauster in the Lamborghini Huracan I think might have actually run out in that race. The Huracan very strong now on fuel in this game and very drivable. I do like what they've done with the BOP in terms of making a lot of these cars drivable. At race C, the Audi is still very much a dominant car for time trial, and it's also very drivable now. So it's making cars that were never used more, and that's going to make these daily races that we do and FIA a little bit more interesting. I just for me at this round, it was all about just getting a result, because there was not much we could do. But there'll be rounds that will be stronger when it goes back to a round. I think that we've got a race at Nürburgring in Group 3 where there's no fuel saving involved, so that one will be a bit stronger for the Ford GT compared to this one where it was a bit weak. So I think overall it shouldn't be too bad. You know, they're mixing it up, they're trying to change the settings around, but these settings just did not suit the Ford GT. But like I say, we'll move on to another round where it might be a bit better. We've got another track coming up for tomorrow's FIA in Group 4. I think it might be a fuel saving race again, and a tyre. It could be a lot to do with tyres in the race as well, so that'll be interesting as well. Whether the Ford Mustang will be too great on the tyres, I'm not too sure. I did kill them last time we drove that car, but at Interlagos we were okay, so it very much seems track dependent with myself whether I'm able to look after the tyres or not, but we'll try our best for that round. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, even though it was just a lot of fuel saving and fuel talk. I do apologise, but that's the way this race was. I'm trying to give advice about how I managed to just get the car to the end, because it was a struggle to generally get that Ford GT to even finish this race with a no stopper. But We'll see you again for another stream of FIA and more videos through the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching, everyone.